Will you please welcome to the stage one of my fellow board members, Andrew Claremont, to present the Lifetime Achievement Award. And in this section, a very special performance.
I think that heritage is the critical thing here, and we have I was with Pat Drummond the other night, and he looked at the players that we have here in town and the youth that have been playing. What you just saw there, he was watching these guys in action, and he said, really, is there that many young people playing the old music? But of course the old music just lives forever, and that's what we're trying to point out here, and we're trying to support and nurture. So with Lifetime Achievement Award, the very pretty long-lived, he had so much influence with so many fiddle tunes across the country. We'd love to give, unfortunately to the late, but ever so relevant, Mr. Joe Yates. And we have Cathy Overton, to accept the award. She does the Joe Yates show, which we'll see in a moment.
Well, I'm accepting that wonderful award on behalf of Joe Yates, who passed away in 1987. And Joe actually came from very close to this area. He lived in Sofala, New South Wales, when I met him in 1983, first of all. Just a little bit about Joseph Yates and the family that passed on a very distinct musical tradition to us. And the playing of Joe Yates is available to us all, not only on our CD, which I hope a few people will pick up and learn tunes from, but also in the National Library of Australia, which is where I've done a lot of my research following making these recordings of Joe. Joe learned his music from his mother and father and his grandfather, and they came to Australia from Yorkshire and travelled on tall ships to Australia in 1840. So it wasn't exactly the first fleet, but it was very soon after that, I guess, in terms of our musical history. And I believe on the voyage, Joe's grandfather George learned lots of songs and lots more fiddle tunes. He spent the 6 months travelling doing that. When George arrived in Australia, he travelled the East Coast with his violin and an Aboriginal boy for a companion, and it must have been such an adventure for a Yorkshire fiddler. He spent his time, as a lot of people did when they first came to Australia, chasing the gold rush, travelled from Sydney to Brisbane, down to Beechworth, Victoria, where he married, then to Tambaroora near Hill End, which of course was one of the biggest gold rush areas in Australia. And apparently George was famous for transporting his young family around by wheelbarrow for thousands of miles. So yeah, different times. The Toyota people weren't involved then. George's grandson, Joe Yates, who is I'm accepting the award on behalf of today, was born in 1895, and all of his brothers and sisters were musical. My friend Bill Yates, who is Joe's nephew, is now 91, and he said all the Yates children could get music out of a wet tea towel. So, very musical family, and we are incredibly grateful for this very unique music that has been passed to us, which is like a telescope way back in time to beyond the 1900s, where this music was played by people like us, and dancers in halls, perhaps not as grand as this one, but all around country New South Wales and country Australia. Joe was first recorded by John Meredith in 1983, and I met him and recorded him in 1985. And over those 2 years, up till the age of 91 when Joe passed away, he provided 11 hours of fiddle music that are archived in the National Library, so a massive treasury. And in my collecting experience, because I have done a bit with some remarkable fiddlers, and I'll be releasing a few more CDs of this important heritage music, a very able retired musician who would have been in their 80s or 90s might have been able to recall about 20 tunes. Joe Yates provided over 160 tunes, so quite a phenomenal memory, remembering that all this music was oral music, none of it was written down. 25 reels, 25 jigs, 22 schottisches, 14 polkas, 33 set tunes, 7 varsavietas, 4 mazurkas, 24 waltzes and 37 songs. So thanks to Joe for those. For 3 generations, Joe played music for dancers around the Australian bush, and the music was displaced probably by recorded music flooding into Australia in 1930. That's when ABC started, 2FC started in Sydney in 1923. People started learning music from all over the world, which we love, but we do want to stand true to our roots and let this music be passed through our folk tradition. So we're going to play a medley of jigs, and then we'll play a couple of mazurkas and a couple of hornpipes.
Polly, Polly, your vision comes to me. Polly, Polly, I fancy I can see you in your father's garden picking apples off the tree and sorting out the rosy ones and giving them to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Catherine Ovenden and Chris, Steve
and Wendy.
and Wendy. We weren't introduced.